All right, dramatic music means it's time for Sportstopia Fantasy Fire and Ice. NFL edition, Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. My man Stu, Monotone Football. Stu, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. Happy to be here for another Thursday. Obviously, maybe not the best game in the world. No one really wanted to see the Broncos in prime time again this year, but we got it. And it's an opportunity to make some money. It's an opportunity to play DFS, make some bets. So hey, I know I'm going to be complaining once football ends. So I shouldn't take this for granted right here. I should get fired up and be ready to play some Broncos.
Well, we do got a lot of things going down. First of all, you know what I'm saying? Al Michaels and Kurt Herbstreit, they may look at the prime schedule and say, man, this is going to be a stinker right here between the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. But I do believe we have confirmed that Taylor Swift will be in the building. You know what I'm saying, Stu? So I don't know if you're into that kind of stuff, whatever. But Taylor Swift will be in the building. So the Swifties will be out. So that brings some excitement to it. I'm sure Amazon probably threw her a couple dollars to tell her to come to the game. You know what I'm saying? Smart move by Amazon. All right, so you got that aspect of it. You got Pat Mahomes going to be there. All right, so that's cool. Taylor Swift boyfriend to be there. Travis Kelce, knees a little bit banged up right now. Sean Payton, he's won a Super Bowl. He'll be there. Russell Wilson, you don't seem impressed. Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl. He'll be there. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it could be worse. It could definitely be worse. I mean, we got to remember the Broncos scored 0 points in a primetime game last year. So it can't get worse than that technically, right? I mean, they gave up 70 earlier this year. So at least we're going to get some offense, worst case scenario.
I think I seen where the number's already going to 11 with Kansas City laying it. The total actually is not that bad. The total is 47, but that could be 47 to nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that could be interesting. Now, with that being said, how would you do an initial handicap on tonight's contest from I guess we'll say from a standpoint of Kansas City's offense versus Denver's defense and Denver's defense versus Kansas City offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. I think one important thing to note so far is obviously the Denver defense has been historically bad so far this season, right? Via DVOA, they're technically the worst defense they've ever charted since they've been collecting this defense. We know a 70-point game can obviously skew those numbers, right? That's clear, right? But the point is, this is likely one of the worst defensive units we've seen over the last couple seasons, going up against the best quarterback we've seen over the last couple seasons, right? So for me, the game I can compare it the most to is the Bears game, right? Even if we do get better offensive production out of the Broncos than we did the Bears, right? That game was still 41-10. And for me, when I look at this game, I don't understand how the Broncos are going to stop the Kansas City Chiefs from scoring 35 points, right? I actually don't see a way that they do that, even with the Chiefs notoriously running out their B+ playbook, right? This isn't going to be the A+. This isn't the Super Bowl. This isn't the playoffs. This is practically a bye week right here. So for me, if you're looking for flashy plays, Sky Moore trick plays, I don't think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see them run the ball, move the ball down the field, take care of business, and move into next weekend with their win.
Matriculate the ball down the football field is Andy Reid's job tonight. Amazon Prime, Taylor Swift in the building. Denver Broncos on the other side. Denver Broncos struggling right now mightily. I told you I was watching It Is What It Is back when the season first started. And Antonio Brown said Sean Payton's first play call of the year was an onside kick. He wanted to see right away what Russell Wilson had. And we've seen it. Not much. And he's probably going to send him to the bench. And it looks like that's going to go ahead and play out. You mentioned some of the flashy plays, right? Let's talk about Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift boyfriend, right? He hasn't gone over his receiving yards prop this season. Would you go back to that tonight? Lower?
I wouldn't.
You think tonight it blows up?
Yeah, and obviously the Taylor Swift stuff, it's very easy to talk about. We know he is the clear number one target in this offense. But like I just said a minute ago, is this really a game where you're going to heavily involve your star tight end coming back from an injury that could have been really bad, right? Luckily, it's not too bad. He just got, a little ankle problem or whatever. But still, at the end of the day, like I said, this is a team playing for a Super Bowl. They're not playing to blow out teams in week 6, right?
Yeah,
So for
oh boy.
me, Travis Kelce, not someone I'm looking at in the props. I mean, they're still setting his lines like it's last season, right? Like
Yeah,
he's
they are.
dominating everything. So you're not even really getting that value that you'd be hoping for. It's kind of the same in DFS. I think people are going to flock to Kelce. He's the only obvious pay up choice. Who else are we going to trust on the Chiefs? Look at their team total, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the volume hasn't been there. And I have a hard time seeing him play 100% of snaps in this one. I think they kind of ease him in, they get the win, and they keep it moving.
Yeah, I would play lower on his prop. You know what I'm saying? Isaiah Pacheco is a play for me tonight. I think Isaiah Pacheco is the man. What about Jerick McKinnon? Would you go all the running backs in play? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you think all of them are in play? Or you think it's Pacheco and then we take it from there?
Yeah, Jerick, I like Jerick McKinnon a lot. Guy I have a lot in best ball, but this isn't the week for me. Well, his role is abundantly clear, right? He hasn't gone over 40% of snaps once this year. He hasn't had more than 3 carries once this year. He's the receiving back. He's going to be in at the 2-minute drill. He's going to be in the red zone, and he's going to be in 3rd and long. So you're kind of limiting yourself when you get a player that is only serving those 3 functions, especially when he has to compete with Pacheco in the red zone, right? I think he's kind of the clear goal line back. And to be honest, I'd rather play Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I think is going to come in as kind of the garbage time guy and maybe steal a last-minute touchdown in this game. So that's the way I'm getting different. I'm playing Clyde Edwards-Helaire instead of Jerick McKinnon this week.
You got who you coming back with? Denver Broncos.
It's tough. It's tough. I think Marvin Mims is kind of a clear choice right here. The guy leads the NFL in yards per reception at 24. He has the most.
How many catches he got?
It's 10. He has like 10 catches this year. And he has the most receiving yards on the team out of anyone, right? He has more than Sutton and Judy.
He's not playing a lot of snaps, though, is he?
He's not. No.
It's a weird offense.
It's a weird offense. And we know Russ over the course of his career, he's a guy that he doesn't really lock into just one guy. He spreads the ball around. He'll hit a lot of people. It's hard. I know he's probably going to be a little bit popular, but I just don't see how you don't play some Marvin Mims today, even though, like you said, he's barely playing any snaps, right? That's a real concern. But when he is out there, the production is insane.
Man. Run a contrarian edge optimizer right quick. If you are concerned or curious what the contrarian edge optimizer is, see that QR code right there that'll take you to the contrarian edge optimizer. 7-day test drive, $1. Bypass that test drive. Go ahead and sign up. It's a pretty solid product. Pat Mahomes, Kadarius Toney, Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Russell Wilson, Sam Pirine.
The one guy I really don't like,
Travis Kelce.
Well, I don't like Kelce that much, but I get it.
He can score a touchdown.
Yeah. I was going to say the touchdown. We know that's a possibility, but for me, it's Pirine. I don't like Pirine at all. This is a guy haven't liked all season long. I've never seen any proof that he can be more than a 3rd down back. He gets subbed out on goal line carries, right? I don't understand why there was so much hype coming into the year. I don't understand why people are still playing him. I think McLaughlin has clearly passed him. He's taking the goal line opportunity. For me, I'm going to have no Samaje Pirine tonight.
All right. Russell Wilson, Isaiah Pacheco, Patrick Mahomes, Cortland Sutton, Edwards-Helaire, Noah Gray.
Yeah, that's the one. That's my kind of lineup right there. Noah Gray is the exact pivot off of Travis Kelce, right? We've seen him become more and more involved this season, right? He's actually playing a good percentage of snaps. This is a team that plays more 12 personnel than the league average right here. And Noah Gray, we know they love backup tight ends in the end zone. We know it. I mean, we've seen it year after year after year. I'm sure everyone in this chat right now has celebrated the wrong big white guy getting a touchdown, right? You got your money on Kelce.
Oh.
So for me, I love that lineup. That Noah Gray, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, both quarterbacks. That's probably going to be my favorite one we're going to talk about today. I think that's a smart lineup.
Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, Kadarius Toney, Justin Watson, Justin Williams, or Jason Williams. Who is that? That's Javonte Williams.
Javonte, okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious. What do you think about Javonte?
Nothing.
He's got some injury. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I don't want to play him. I really don't.
I'm done with that. I'm done chasing Javonte Williams points. I'm not doing that no more. Isaiah Pacheco, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Harrison Butker, Kadarius Toney, Will Lutz. The algorithm likes Kadarius Toney. I don't.
I liked him at the beginning of the season. I don't know if you remember. I came on here and I talked about him after he had all
You
those
did.
drops.
You
But
did.
since then, he hasn't really done anything, right? And I kind of just talked about it a second ago. I like Kadarius Toney when this team's bringing out the A-plus playbook. I know they've got some creative stuff for him. He's a gadget player at heart. That is his singular role on this team. And I don't see the need for Andy Reid to go in his bag today, right? Why are we going to see the gadget plays week 6 against the Broncos? So since I don't think we see those specialty plays for him, I'm not interested in Kadarius Toney either.
All right, Sportstopia Fantasy Fire and Ice NFL Edition. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Priceless Pigeon, Judy or Jeff Wilson?
I mean, is Jeff Wilson officially ruled back yet? I know he's obviously coming off of some injury stuff, right? I mean, is that
You can't make this decision right here, Pigeon,
probably
quite
go
yet. You know what
Judy,
I'm
but
saying? It's still early in the week. It probably would be Judy the best bet though. Let's go to where's the international series at? Is back at Tottenham Hotspur this weekend?
I don't remember. Is it there? Is it Germany? There's a Germany one
There's a
soon.
Germany. I think the Patriots might be in the Germany one, so that could be the case. All right, so check it out. We go back to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm just going to run the optimizer. Lamar Jackson, DeAndre Hopkins, the Baltimore Ravens defense, Westbrook Akine, Mark Andrews, Gus Edwards.
Yeah, I like it. I like Westbrook Akide. That's a guy I sneak in whenever obviously one of the starters is injured. Tannehill loves that guy. They've had that chemistry for the last 3 years, especially in the red zone. So that's a good sneaky little guy. I'm going to be starting all my lineups with Lamar Jackson. So I like that he's in the captain spot, obviously, or it depends on how you're playing this slate. But I like Lamar Jackson a lot. Last week, he was the highest graded PFF passer. He just happened to have 8 completions dropped by his wide receivers. We don't see that happen on a week-to-week basis. I've got to think these guys actually make some catches and show up for Lamar this week.
Ryan Tannehill, Lamar Jackson, DeAndre Hopkins, Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar. That what's his the Mitchell kid?
Which one? I don't know. Mitchell?
Keaton Mitchell.
Oh, okay. Interesting. The rookie. Yeah, he hasn't played really at all so far this year. I mean,
I'm trying to figure out why they would have him in the lineup.
I mean, hey, I was the Contrarian Edge Optimizer. They like to get crazy. A couple weeks ago, it had Sterling Shepard in, and then the next week he actually kind of balled out. So maybe keep that in mind for next week.
I know, right? Keep that in mind for next week. D Hop, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Chigga Conwu, the Ravens defense, Westbrook Akine, Westbrook Akine, Derrick Henry, the king, not looking very kingly so far this year. I'm a big Tajay Spears guy.
Yeah, I was waiting for that Spears name, and we still haven't heard it yet. I'm a little bit surprised they haven't give us any Spears looks yet. But I'm with you. I mean, Henry, obviously, we know how good he is, but if he's only playing 60% of snaps, 70% of snaps, like that's concerning. So I like Spears a lot as well.
All right, then the final one: D Hop, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Gus Edwards, Nick Folk, Justice Hill. Excuse me.
Interesting. I like that one. Obviously, I don't normally play kickers in like high scoring games, but if you think this is going to be a low scoring game, which I think it has a possibility to, right? Titans defense can be pretty solid, especially that front end. And we know the Ravens defense, top 5 EPA per play so far this year. I don't mind the kicker ad right there. The only thing is, if you're playing a kicker, might as well play Justin Tucker, right? Well, why not we get the guy that's hitting 60-yard field goals?
There you go. Get the best kicker ever. All right, right quick with Tajay Spears in the captain spot. Spears, Jackson, Hopkins, Flowers, Ravens defense, Westbrook Akine.
That's getting different. I like that. That's how you win money, right? We talk about this all the time. You can't play the same lineup everyone else is playing. And if Spears comes in and steals that touchdown, then suddenly half the field is sitting there with a Derrick Henry that missed out on that touchdown. So it's easy leverage against the field. Definitely like that look right there.
All right, let's get ready to hop into the main slate. Who's the main play on the main slate this week? Is it Christian McCaffrey? Is it Tyreek Hill? Is it Jamar Chase? Who's the big dog on the main slate?
It's hard to look away from CMC, but obviously 37 total makes that a little tougher. For me, I'm just going to instantly go right back. The Cooper Kupp show is in town, and he was ready to go last week. So now we get a team that just allowed Jamar Chase to go absolutely insane last week. And now we get Cooper Kupp, who looked perfectly fine to me. I think that's a guy people might still be a little bit scared by the injury. I think that's a guy I'm easily locking and loading this week.
Oh, okay. Very good. Locked and loaded in, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to, right? You got to play these guys when you see it, right? And I saw it. He is back. He looked like the same guy. He's running the same kind of routes. If a lot of people are still going to sit there and be indecisive, I don't know if I want to trust him yet. Puka's playing so well that I'm going to take advantage of that because I think his ownership should probably be higher than it is. And to be completely honest, there's a lot of good buy low options on the slate this week. So I don't mind spending up for these top tier talents.
Let me ask you, DJ Moore or AJ Brown?
Ooh, it doesn't even feel like those guys should be in the same category, right? I mean, with how well AJ Brown's been playing recently, I think that's where I got to go.
Yeah, AJ Brown is definitely getting it done, but I think matchup wise, you could see DJ Moore, but you never know. With AJ Brown, you kind of feel very comfortable. Rank these three: Bijan, Raheem Mostert, Travis Etienne.
Interesting. I think I'm gonna go. Who's the first name you said? Run that again.
Bijan.
Yeah, I'm gonna go then the order you said it right there. I think Bijan's kind of my clear number one. I know he hasn't had some of the weeks people might be expecting yet, but guess what? We get a good matchup in this Washington team who is struggling on the defensive end of the ball, right? And then for me, a guy like Mostert, maybe I didn't love him as much last week, but if a chain's going to miss, right? And if Jeff Wilson is only going to carry the ball a couple of times, or we don't even know how healthy he is, then suddenly Mostert's back in the driver's seat right here. And then finally, I like Etienne, but he's in a bit of a tougher matchup this week. I like the pass catchers a lot more than the running backs in that game.
All right, so let's do this. Let's start in Atlanta. Commanders head down to Atlanta. Obviously, like I say all the time, the toughest thing to do in sports betting and just in setting these lineups and stuff like that and fantasy gaming is to forget what your eyes just saw. Our eyes just saw the Commanders get destroyed at home by the Bears. Their home fans booed them off the field. Now they go down to Atlanta where Arthur Smith is 9-1 on the money line as a home favorite. I like the Commanders in this game, though. I think the Commanders are going to be a better road team than a home team this year. I think they're going to be able to go out there and get it done and sneak out a victory. So if the Commanders do win this game, when you look at Atlanta's defense, is it going to be Terry Scary and Dotson and Curtis Samuel, or is this the show for Brian Robinson?
Yeah, I like that name you mentioned in there in the middle. I like Curtis Samuel a lot in this game. To me, everything I've seen the Falcons, one, they're a pass funnel, right? 7th rated DVOA rush defense so far this year. So they're very good against the rush. Second of all, they've allowed the least receiving yards to running backs so far as well. So a guy like Antonio Gibson or Brian Robinson might not even get those dump downs that we kind of depend on, right? Then AJ Terrell been very good on the outside against opposing wide receiver ones, allowing the 5th fewest yards to wide receiver one. So for me, I kind of cross off Terry right there. I cross off Robinson, and I go to a guy like Curtis Samuel, who's been all over the place in the red zone so far this season. He's catching balls over the middle, and that's where I want to attack this Atlanta defense. So I think the Atlanta defense is weak over the middle. So there's two guys that pop to my mind as a Commanders fan. We're going Curtis Samuel and Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas, that's a good play right there this week as well. I almost feel like you can almost get a touchdown out of Logan Thomas this week. When you come back with the Falcons, right? Obviously, Bijan, are you more comfortable in the pass catches this week, being that you're going up against that Commanders secondary that was just been torched a couple times this year? Or do you think that Pitts in London too risky?
This is the hard one. I mean, if London gets popular, then I don't like it anymore. But if London isn't popular, if he falls down the radar, then I think I have to play him. Just because every single week, look at the game log. AJ Brown, DJ Moore, wide receiver ones are dominating the Washington secondary. They've allowed the most receiving yards per game to opposing wide receiver ones. That's clearly Drake London, right? There's not even a competition. Additionally, on the other side, Washington's been very good against the tight end. 4th DVOA against the tight end so far. Cam Curl, a very good safety. I'm a big fan of him as well. So for me, I think Drake London will have the opportunity. It's just like, do we trust Desmond Ridder? I mean, he threw for 300 yards last week, but I've watched him before that, right? I'm not going to be fooled by one game. This is one of the least competent passers in the league. So if Drake London gets really popular, I think that takes away the value, right? But if he's kind of a sub 10% owned, no one's really talking about him, then I think there's some value playing him there.
All right, that's a good way, cool way to look at it right there. One of the games on the main slate with a nice big total is Carolina Panthers and the Miami Dolphins, 47.5. It might be 47-0. Maybe that's what it's going to be. But when you look at Miami, obviously, you start with Tyreek Hill, then it kind of falls in after that with Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert. any sneaky plays in there? And do you like Tua more than say you like some of the other top quarterbacks on this slate, like Jalen Hurts and who else on the slate? Top quarterback, Jalen Hurts and
Burrow's here, obviously.
yeah.
Geno Smith, he's not top tier quarterback. But that's the interesting thing right there. That's actually a great discussion point. There aren't that many top tier quarterbacks. Most of these guys are on prime time. Lamar's in the morning. Josh Allen is at night. He's the only other great quarterbacks.
It's really well. You have a Justin Fields is a great fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, but no, I think you have to play a little bit of Tua. My top end guy this week is Trevor Lawrence. We'll talk about that a little bit later. That's the quarterback I'm going to mostly be targeting this one. But for me, yeah, I think Tua is a guy you got to get a little bit of. I like the matchup last week way more because, to be honest, the Giants only blitz, and Tua is awesome against the blitz. So it was kind of a clear, easy choice. I think this week the defensive game plan from Frank Reich is going to be very conservative, keep everything in front of you. I don't think we're going to see Tyreek Hill go absolutely insane, but at this point, he kind of does feel like a lock for 100 yards every week.
Yeah, for real, not 100%. I would agree with you on that. On the Carolina side, it's Adam Thielen. That's it, right?
That is it. Adam, click it in there and keep it moving, right? Play his prop, 5.5 receptions. Just that's the only guy. I mean, and they clearly have that chemistry. It's just check down, check down, check down. Adam Thielen and keep it moving.
I got a feeling about Adam Thielen. It's a nice trade target too in season-long leagues.
Yep.
Yeah, because Adam Thielen is getting it done. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Andrew Luck's rookie year, how he just solely threw the ball to Reggie Wayne. And looks like Bryce Young is just solely throwing the football to Adam Thielen. He could rack up some big fantasy numbers this year with some reception totals and stuff like that. Let's talk Jacksonville and Indianapolis. Jaguars back home, Duval County. Colts come into town. Not mistaken, Jacksonville kind of owns this series, particularly down there in Jacksonville. What do you like about this? You mentioned Trevor Lawrence already.
Yeah, no, I like a lot of targets in this one. Obviously, this is Colts team as a team. I believe they play the third most zone and they play the most cover 3 out of any team in the league. Cover 3 is Trevor Lawrence's best coverage, averaging over 10 yards per attempt against cover 3 so far this season. I think Calvin Ridley's the clear beneficiary of that. Opened up my sports book, saw 56 yards for Calvin Ridley this week. That felt disrespectful to me. I locked that one in as soon as possible. Great at finding those holes in the zone. He obviously has a good history against the Colts himself. I think that's one of my favorite stacks of the week right there. Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley.
All right, that Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley probably is going to be lit coming up this weekend right here. What are you doing with Jonathan Taylor?
I'm not playing him, and I've got him on my fantasy teams too. I got this guy, 23% best ball for me, one of my highest on best ball players. Like, I don't love it. After what we saw last week, Zach Moss leads the league in broken tackles per attempt. That he's being good, right? It's not just like this is a replacement level guy. Zach Moss has actually been good so far. And obviously Jonathan Taylor, we got Anthony Richardson. This team is looking for the long term, right? So I would be very shocked to see Jonathan Taylor ramped up to more than 40% of snaps this week. So I've got to pass, unfortunately. It hurts me. I've got him on all my freaking teams.
Oh, Michael Pittman, though, right?
Yeah, got to keep going back to Michael Pittman, especially with Gardner Minshew in there. That's one thing we know. Locks in, gets some of those low A.dot targets, especially if you're in a PPR league or a PPR contest. I can see 8 for 80 pretty easily in this one.
There you go right there. Nice job. All right, cool. Let me get to another game on the slate this weekend. Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, 44.5 is the total. Justin Jefferson are obviously going to be out for a good little bit now. Matter of fact, with no contract, and if this team keeps losing, we really could not see Justin Jefferson no more this season. You know what I mean? By the time they get to November, they could decide to just go ahead and wrap it up. You know what I mean? With that being said, still got to play this one that's in front of us. Jordan Addison, obviously, going to be very popular this weekend in DFS circles. You saw him get it healthy heaping last weekend when Jeff went out. Chicago Bears got plenty to come back to as well. NFC North familiarity with these two teams right here. Fantasy fireworks in this one.
Yeah, I think so. These are two terrible defenses, right? I mean, how can we assume anything different, right? I don't trust either of these defenses to get a stop all game. So for me, I mean, I think Minnesota wins personally. I think when you look at a lot of the advanced numbers, they actually say they're a better team than they were last season, which is kind of crazy. It's all those one score games. They won every single one score game last year, and they've lost every single one this year. But even some of these metrics are saying even their defense is actually playing a little better than last year. I know obviously losing Justin Jefferson hurts, but the offense is the strong suit of this. You do have a first round pick you can slot in there, and you've got one of the best receiving tight ends in the league. So I think a guy like TJ Hawkinson kind of jumps off the page. I know he's going to be popular. I know the whole world is going to be playing him this week, but I mean, the guy's locked in for like 10 targets, which is pretty insane for the tight end position.
Yeah, nah, he does light it up real good. Like him and Sam Laporta really right now. You know what I mean? More the tight ends that I'm really looking at. Any running back in this game interest you? Any? Can I sell you some Roshan Johnson, some Cam Akers, some Alexander Madison? You want to buy some bottom of the barrel running backs?
Yeah, I mean, is Roshan like healthy? Do we have the updated injury report?
You
I
think he's
actually
good?
questionable tag all week, just that steady questionable, which worries me. I mean, if he's in there and he's healthy, I think that's the choice you got to go with. To be honest, though, people are acting like Deonta Foreman isn't a good running back, and I think
True.
he is. He was good last year. Like he was legit good. He's one of the first people, obviously, to come back from that Achilles injury and really play well. So for me, a guy like Deonta Foreman could be a little bit sneaky if he is ruled in and Roshan is maybe limited or doesn't, record those full practices before game time.
Definitely something that we'll be keeping an eye on. Head on over to sportstopia.io. Got the rankings up there, not to mention the fact, injury information, everything that you need to be dominant on Sunday morning. And that contrarian code, that optimizer, that QR code right there for that contrarian optimizer is a good way to get it started as well. Let's bounce around a little bit more with some of this action. I'm not talking about. I'm not doing anything. I'm not discussing anything with the New England Patriots and the Las Vegas Raiders. At least not right now. Let's talk Jets and Eagles. I think this one's wow. The number came in. Look at that. Went to Philadelphia laying 6.5 now. I think this is interesting right here. Um, I think Jalen Hurts is the best player in football right now. Right, and then with a target like AJ Brown, super duper lit. Right. But I think Brees Hall is somebody you have to take serious. And I think the discount you're starting to see on Garrett Wilson, I think maybe is getting to the point where I may want to take a bite. What do you think?
I like the Garrett Wilson look. For me, the problem with Brees Hall, man, is I love him. I've got him on a lot of fantasy teams. This guy's clearly talented, right? That there's no argument there. The problem, this Eagles rush defense is really good,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they're the number one DVOA rush defense so far this year. They got those Georgia boys down in the interior. Jalen Carter is wreaking absolute havoc as a rookie already. It's one of those things, man. I don't feel comfortable feeding running backs to that Eagles defensive line. And it's going to be a tough choice. I'm going to have to play him in fantasy this week. But in DFS, when you have a choice, I think I'd prefer to go to a guy, like you said, like Garrett Wilson, who's looking a little bit more involved in the offense recently.
All right. What about DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, I like Swift on the other side. Obviously, Jets front line is pretty good. The
Yeah,
problem is Jalen Hurts, man, is the touchdown vulture, right? Once you
that's
get down
true
to the red
too.
zone, he's going to take them all himself, and that's going to hurt Swift a lot. So I'm kind of with you. I'd almost rather just take Swift. You take a little Devonta Smith, right? I mean, we know this Eagles team.
Big discount on Devontae Smith recently too.
Exactly. And what do we know about the Eagles? They kind of have this squeaky wheel philosophy of the guy that isn't involved, we're going to get him the ball next week. And they've consistently done that throughout their, Nick Sirianni's time in Philadelphia. So for me, I would not be shocked you're watching this game the first drive. I bet Devonta Smith is getting about 3 or 4 targets. So be ready for
But
that.
check this out though. I agree with everything you're saying, but I think that AJ Brown is playing at such an elite level right now that it's kind of hard to be like, okay, like you can't go away from him. Like I understand getting Smith involved, but Brown is just elite.
Yeah, I got burnt by that last week. I know exactly what you're saying. I guess the one counter to that would be I would assume Sauce Gardner is going to be all over AJ Brown. That's my assumption. That's who
Okay.
he's going to be tasked with slowing down. So the problem though is actually for the Jets fans out there watching. I'm sure DJ Reed on the other side is a really good corner as well. So
Mhm.
it'll be interesting. I don't actually hate playing both of them to be honest. With the whole field pivoting to some of these other quarterbacks, everyone's scared of the Jets defense. I don't really mind, a mini Philadelphia Eagles snack or stack going completely away from the public.
No, I'm there. I think Philadelphia is kind of game plan proof on
Yeah.
offense, particularly with Jalen Hurts. Arizona Cardinals, Los Angeles Rams. Rams 7-point favorite in this one. Nice big high total at 48. You've already mentioned Cooper Cup back in the mix, picks up right where he left off, looking like Cooper Cup. Puka getting it done. On the other side, you got some injuries we got to be concerned about, but Marquise Brown continues to be a target hog. What are you thinking in this one right here?
Yeah, like Marquise Brown, you mentioned that kind of one of the more underrated guys at this point, right? A guy we liked in Baltimore, everyone is a fan of. He goes here with Colt McCoy. Okay, we don't care. But Joshua Dobbs is finding him the ball. He's winning versus man coverage and zone coverage, which isn't something you see the common wide receiver do, right? He's putting up some very solid numbers and some even better advanced numbers so far this year. So that's the guy I'm looking out for. I got burned by Matthew Stafford last week. If you watched the show, you knew I was all over him. I was all over the over. And man, the Eagles just ran that clock out in the second half, just burned it. He barely touched the ball. So it hurts to lose that, but I've got to go right back. We just saw what happened to this defense last week, right? Joe Burrow went absolutely insane after looking like he couldn't move the week before, right? So now we got Stafford in here, a team that loves to throw the ball. For me, it's Stafford, Cup, and then a little bit of Hollywood on the return. I don't want any of these Arizona running backs. Everyone in the world's trying to guess, oh, Keontae Ingram, I'll pass. The guy had like a 2.2 yards per carry last season. I'm not super interested in any of these running backs on the Arizona side.
I do not disagree with you. Um, so yeah, I'm not even Emon Kari and all of these cats. Forget about it. Detroit Lions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Sam Laporta, Jared Goff and the crew take the show on the road. Tampa, I believe Mike Evans a little bit banged up, has not practiced
Yeah.
yet this week. What do you think about this game right here? Anything intrigued to you in this game right here?
Well, I mean, I got a question to start off for you because for me, I look at this line and I go, oh my God, they are begging you to bet the Lions. We've seen the Lions be a top 5, top 6 team in the NFL so far, and you're telling me Tampa Bay's only getting 3 points in this one. Whenever I see a line like that, I almost want to instantly lock in Tampa Bay. Are you seeing what I'm seeing there?
Yeah, it on initial outlook, right? That's my first thought. But the problem is the Lions are legit, right? And the Lions, you know why everybody like the Lions? Because Lions make people money. The Lions have been phenomenal
Yeah.
versus the spread for really the better part of 2.5 seasons now. And there's such a great ATS team, home, road. This sounds crazy. The Lions really don't have no weakness right now. Um, Everything you're saying from a handicap perspective is correct. It's a funny looking line. And if it don't go to 3.5 Sunday morning, it looks even funnier. But I
Yeah.
just can't go on the other side of the Lions for someone, right? That's where I'm at. Trust me, I've tried betting against the Lions. It don't work. I mean, I
Yeah.
won the Seattle game, but that's really it.
No, I'm with you. It's a tricky one, but I mean, just for that alone, I think I will be on the Bucks this week. I think I understand what you're saying. The Lions are legit. Brian Branch injury stuff will be interesting to
Yeah.
see if he's back. The rookie obviously has been phenomenal when he's been in there so far, but I don't know. Baker, he's covering. They're playing gritty football. Their defense is playing pretty well. Like that run defense is really good too. We know that Tampa run defense is still solid in there. David Montgomery's been carrying a lot of the load, but he's obviously had some great matchups. So for me, I think the Lions probably win, but to ask them to cover, more than 3, like I said, if this isn't 3.5, that's crazy. But if I had to set this line, I'm saying 4.5, 5. So I see some value just with the bookmakers being all over the place on this one.
All right, cool. All right, I can definitely dig it. Trust me, it's one that I'm gonna keep my eye on as far as the week goes and stuff like that. Seattle and Cincinnati, interesting contest right here, right? Seattle coming in to Cincinnati. Cincinnati looks like they bounced back last week. Burrow looked a little bit more healthier. Jamar Chase monster game. I love the Seahawks in this spot.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks, I think Kenneth Walker is the guy. Like, I think you got to have a lot of Kenneth Walker this week because even beyond just take the matchup out, right? Kenneth Walker has proven he's a boom or bust player that can break slates. We saw those 2 touchdown games last year. He has he's got the red zone lockdown, right? We don't have to worry about any competition there. And man, this Bengals defense, despite being actually a good rush defense last year, has been bad. They've been getting gashed by pretty much every single team they go against last year. Obviously, we had the James Conner injury last week that kind of skews the numbers a little bit, but pretty much bottom 5 via most advanced metrics there are out there, especially the broken tackle rate, which is what I'm looking at for a guy like Kenneth Walker, who sheds ankle tackles like they're nothing. So I love Kenneth Walker in this one. I think the Seahawks, like you said, obviously we saw the Bengals take advantage of a bad team last week. They finally balled out, and I think people are going to instantly buy back in. I think this is a good time to take the team that nobody's really talking about.
Yep. So yeah, I would go right there. But anybody? So besides Ken Walker, the passing game, DK Tyler, or is it not there, or is it just like a Ken Walker Geno thing? What is it?
I like Kenneth Walker. I'll probably get to some DK Metcalf, but to be honest, I'm just having a hard time with these receivers right now. Tyler Lockett is playing a weirder role, more downfield targets this week or this season. Then we got JSN, who's the rookie, not as involved as fantasy drafters might have hoped. Only has like a 4 ADOT so far. He's getting super short targets. It's just really hard for me to figure out that wide receiver room. And considering how bad the rush defense is on the other side, I think Kenneth Walker is probably my main click.
Yeah, no doubt. Ken Walker definitely getting it done. You know what I'm saying? Definitely a player I like moving forward for the rest of the season. I want to throw a couple of quick anything I missed, any games I missed coming up this week. Did we San Francisco and Cleveland? Anything intrigue you there, DFS wise?
That's a scary one. I saw an interesting stat that like Kyle Shanahan has never scored more than 25 points against Jim Schwartz. I think he's 1-8 against him in his career in terms of offensive coordinator versus defensive coordinator.
Wow.
Obviously, things have changed, but I even saw the season they squared off for the Falcons, the final one where Kyle Shanahan was over there. They'd scored 25 points in every game all season, and they held them to 13 when they went against Jim Schwartz. So that's an interesting stat right there, and that kind of does shift how you look at this game. I think for me, Brandon Ayuk is a guy I like, and beyond that, probably not, because we know this is a team that plays a lot of press, a lot of man. They're going to challenge you at the line of scrimmage. Deebo Samuel's been getting stuffed up at the line of scrimmage more, and I've seen nothing but wins from Brandon Ayuk on film over the last 2 years. I think this guy might be the most underrated wide receiver in football. I think he's a wide receiver 1 on a majority of teams in the NFL so far this year, and I don't think anybody is going to be playing Brandon Ayuk in a game with a 37 total with 2 top-tier defenses, right? I don't see him being popular. So I think there's some good value on that spot.
Interesting stuff right there. All right, let me give this. I put in a couple players that I heard you mention that you like this week. So I'm going to go ahead and give this main slate a run over here. The Contrarian Edge Optimizer brought to you by Sportstopia.io. Head on over there right now. Rankings, advice. You want to get ready for basketball season, plenty of stuff. Don't forget the YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit that like button. That QR code takes you to the optimizer that I'm running right now. Trevor Lawrence, Ken Walker, Alvin Kamara, Calvin Ridley, Jordan Addison, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Marquise Brown, the Cleveland Browns defense.
Yeah, that's a nice lineup right there. The one thing I'll say is Christian Kirk is probably the one guy, because if I've already got Ridley, I've already got Ingram. I think I'll probably look for a different wide receiver there, just because Christian Kirk has been much better in his career versus man coverage, not zone. And this is a team that plays a lot of zone. But the rest of that lineup, I mean, hey, it's practically made for me right there.
Oh, you're going to like this one. Trevor Lawrence, Ken Walker, Travis Etienne, Calvin Ridley, Drake London, Jordan Addison, Logan Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Panthers defense.
Yeah, no, I like that look a lot right there. That's pretty much everything I've been saying throughout the whole show, too. And I mean, the thing is, the model seemingly loves Jordan Addison this week, which is interesting, too. I mean, obviously, he's going to get a chance to show off those skills that made him a first-round pick. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Then it gets real contrarian right here. Trevor Lawrence, Ken Walker, DeAndre Swift, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Josh Downs, who I wanted to ask you about, TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne, the Cardinals defense. Josh Downs is interesting, right?
He is. He was my one of my favorite plays of the week last week, and I'm going right back. I kind of mentioned Michael Pittman earlier. I said the 8 for 80. I think both him and Josh Downs could do the 8 for 80, because we've seen one thing from Gardner Minshew. He's not really looking to take shots downfield.
No, he don't mind throwing it either.
He loves throwing the ball, but he's not throwing it 40 yards downfield. He's doing a first read, checking over the slot, and getting the ball out quick. He's moving the ball. He's not turning it over. I think what Josh Downs balled out in his last start together when they had that full week of practice. I expect Josh Downs to have around 7 to 8 targets in this one. And we've seen him make big plays so far this season. So I like that you mentioned that. Josh Downs is the guy I'm going right back to this week.
Trevor Lawrence, Ken Walker, Brees Hall, Calvin Ridley, Drake London, Robert Woods, Evan Ingram, Jamar Chase, Detroit Lions defense.
Interesting. So you get the Ridley and the Chase right there. Obviously paying up for the wide receiver, getting some elite talent. Yeah, can't hit on that lineup at all. I mean, Chase is a guy that I'm curious. Do you think he's going to be super popular this week? It's hard to believe he isn't, right? If there's one thing we know about DFS people, they love betting on what they just saw last week.
100%. They're going to go back to him again this week. So there's some interesting lineups right there. I didn't mention that Houston game versus New Orleans. Anything in that one interest you? That seems like it's going to be a lot of defense.
Yeah, it does. I think Kamara's probably the guy. He was in the first lineup or the second one, and I like the spot in there. Obviously, we know the Texans' defense can give it up to running backs. Surprisingly good pressure. Obviously, Will Anderson looking good already out there on the edge. I think we got to see a lot of checkdowns in this one. I think Kamara is really the only piece I'm like heavily attacking. I might sneak in a little bit of Nico Collins this week, but I don't know. It's also just a heads up for anyone out there. Dalton Schultz. I know he had a good week last week. Don't play him, guys. No wide receiver, no tight end has done anything against the Saints so far this year. They haven't even allowed a 14-yard catch or more to a single tight end so far this season. They're dominating opposing tight ends. So don't get fooled by Dalton Schultz last week.
Right, so don't get fooled by Dalton Schultz. Don't get fooled by the imposters. Sportstopia.io is the place to go. And that contrarian edge optimizer will have you in the winner's circle. For my man Monotone Monotone Football, my man Stu. It's Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Play the dramatic Sportstopia music. It's time to get out of here. Bang.